Hello and welcome to In the Art Scene podcast, a show that unites creatives from all over the world in sharing inspiration, life stories, business knowledge, and love for art. This show is a part of the San Diego Art Directory, a nonprofit organization serving as an informational hub for all things arts and culture in San Diego County, founded by yours truly. I'm Galina Marquez, and I invite you to explore a new angle of the multifaceted world of arts and creativity. As always, the show notes will be on our website, intheartscene.com. And now let's get to the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to In the Art Scene podcast. And whoa, this is season 10. Feeling hot. We're getting close to 100 episodes. Wow, I cannot believe that. All right. Well, can you guess who I'm talking with today? Yes, you're right. It's a special guest, like everyone. Her name is Nicole Miller. She is a very young artist in San Diego, very fresh in San Diego, came from New Jersey. And she is, I would thought that she came from Hawaii or something because of her style. She is primarily painting on surfboards, and oh my goodness, you guys just have to see them. So I am dying to talk to Nicole about her art journey and her upcoming exhibition, which we will talk about a little bit later. So welcome, Nicole. Welcome to the podcast, and introduce yourself.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about it. So as was already mentioned, I grew up in New Jersey. Everyone kind of thinks they don't realize New Jersey has beautiful beaches. I grew up right where they filmed that like terrible show, Jersey Shore, so like Central Jersey Shore, and we're nothing like that. So it's actually very beachy, like surf town. So I always painted the ocean growing up. It was just kind of like my muse and my piece. Um, Always painted that kind of stuff. I actually don't surf, but I grew up around it, and eventually, as I got older, I started being given old surfboards and stuff like that, and I started creating on those. And then it just kind of took off. I fell in love with it. I love that each one is like a unique canvas, and I like to think I'm doing something good by painting on something, upcycling something. And it just kind of evolved from there. At this point, I've moved around the country a lot. My husband's in the Coast Guard, so we bounce around a lot, and that's how we ended up out here in San Diego. And I'm now doing it full time, and I painted close to 150 boards at this point.
What?
Career, yeah. So it's been. I
Since when?
started
Since when? In like 2018 you started, I think, right? Or
like 2017, like right out of college. I started the whole surfboard thing. Just
wow.
trying. So I went to college to be an art teacher, actually. So I taught elementary and middle school art for about 4 years. One day I just walked in and quit and decided to do the art thing full time. But I was just kind of, it took me a while to figure out like what I wanted to do. And then I came across this surfboard thing and just kind of fell in love with it. So yeah.
I gotta assume that either you were selling out or you were doing commissions, because 150 surfboards, it's like, oh my goodness.
I know. It's a
I
lot.
have like 8 canvases stacked in the corner and I have no idea what to do with them.
I know, I know.
I'm
A
almost
lot of
ready to
it's
give them away for free.
a lot of it is commission work. I do like to always have like my original ideas for me. But it usually leads to a lot of commission stuff. I'm also known to just work like really fast. Just get an idea, and not, I guess, fast time wise, not really, but I'll work for like 15 hours and finish a surfboard just because I'm so excited about it. So I work quickly in that way. So yeah, over 7 years, like I would say almost 100. I don't know if I've hit 150 yet, but
All right. Are you painting like every day or?
yeah, I try to. I keep myself busy. I kind of find myself like not being able not to, which I guess that's a good thing. I guess I like what I'm doing if that's the case. So yeah, I would say I paint at least 5 days a week, at least. And the other 2 days I'm doing other stuff. So yeah.
Wow. Well, that's a dream. Okay, you're living a dream.
You
Mine and
know,
everybody else who's listening.
I try to.
So I have to ask you, because I have seen painted surfboards before. I gotta ask you, is it like a functional surfboard? People are actually ordering them, like commissioning you, and then they take them to the ocean? Because I have seen on your website all those beautiful people walking by the beach with your surfboards, and like, how can you possibly put that in the salt water?
Yeah, so it's funny, that's a question I get all the time. I could do it both ways. I would say 95% of the boards I do are just gonna be artwork. But I will do like a functional board on commission only because when I do that, I like to work with a shaper. So somebody will actually shape the board and then I will paint on the foam or on like a undercoat of it, and then they will fiberglass over it, or if I paint it on the fiberglass, they will resin over it. So when I do those types of boards, you're not only commissioning me, but you're commissioning the shaper as well. So they're significantly more expensive. So I don't do those just for myself as often. I just kind of I like the upcycle thing because it's artwork, it's a canvas, it's meant to be hung in a home. Everyone always asks me about the photo shoots because they see those funny
Yeah,
backstory.
those are sexy. Okay, tell me the backstory.
I love seeing it come full circle like that. So when I was in high school, actually, I applied to all college to go to school for fashion. So I did like I just loved that whole like idea of doing like photo shoots and that kind of thing and seeing it come full circle. So that's why I do that. I just love seeing it that way. I ended up going for art education instead of fashion, but that's like where that kind of part of me comes from, the whole photo shoot, like wanting to see it in that light. And I think it looks nice. So
So,
it's
okay,
just
so are you shooting yourself?
so sometimes I have done shoots myself. They don't come out as good, but I like to work with. This is something I actually started in Key West, working with photographers. Um, a lot of times, like photographers want to shoot things to kind of set them apart from their competition. So if you're in like a beachy town doing something that'll stand out, like with these crazy painted surfboards, kind of like a collaboration with other people helping each other out. So that's how that kind of happens. I being out here in San Diego, I've done that a couple times, but I've also hired photographers too. So I feel like the photo shoots are more for like me. I just like to see it like in that full circle moment.
That's great. That's awesome. All right, I got to ask you about your inspiration. So, no, I get it that New Jersey is it has a lot of beaches, but your themes are, mermaids, big florals, crystals. I mean, you're clearly California or Hawaii girl. Like, I mean, if I didn't know you were from New Jersey, I wouldn't tell.
Oh,
So,
that's so funny.
uh, tell me a little bit more about your inspiration and how you get your ideas and what do they represent? Because some of them I see not just, you have some really cool like beach scenes, sunsets, but a lot of them are so detailed that I just can't help but thinking that there's a lot of symbolism in it. So I have to ask you about that.
So it will okay, so there's a lot of things my ideas come from, but, I am, like, a pretty spiritual person, so that's why you see, like, the crystals and things like that in my pieces, and they usually do symbolize something that, like, I'm going through currently or just went through in my life, so I like to, like, sneak those kinda things in there. The florals and all of the butterflies and things like that, um, I like to keep it feminine. Like, I want it to be obvious that this was done by a woman. I like to just do things that are simply just because they're beautiful and pretty and I like them, which I feel like in surf art, it's been done by men for so long. And there's like this style that people think of when they think of surf art. But I like to think that I'm doing something different in that niche and creating like more of an outlet for women in that whole category of surf art. So that's why I just I used to try to do things that I thought were supposed to be in like the category of surf art. But as I've grown with this, I've just kind of let go of all that and just started doing things that I simply like and enjoy painting. So kind of
So,
mix
and
that.
most of your collectors, are they women or men or so do you have like a distinction
I
between
would say it's like a good like half and half
half
split.
and
Like
half? That's great, actually.
yeah, no, it is. I was actually surprised at how many men do like my work, but they do, and it just goes to show that like so for me, like as I've started to do these things that I genuinely like, I've noticed I'm more successful. I think that in art, like when you're shining through what you're painting. It's more appealing or connects more with the viewers and people versus kind of doing something just to fit in or what you think might sell. I think that's an important thing that I've learned over the years.
Yeah, this is interesting, and I don't want to go into the rabbit hole because sometimes I have these conversations. It is kind of the universal truth that yes, you have to be authentic to shine through and be and connect with your viewers and your collectors, and that kind of attracts people. But then all of a sudden we're going into like, okay, you have to know the market and and there's some styles that sell better. It's like, oh my goodness, like how can you be in two different places at once? But I get it. Like all artists are going through the same thing, everybody. But actually, you touched a very interesting point that I wanted to ask you. You said that the surfing industry is dominated by men, and that is true. And I actually have listened to another podcast, and it's more about the women oriented podcast. And there was a woman surfer. I don't remember how she calls herself, but she is a plus size woman, and she started the whole collection of the surf attire, like the surf costumes, so like the swimsuits for women surfers, because she was clearly pissed off that she could not find anything. And if you go into the surfing magazines, everybody is so fit and like everything is designed by man, and there's certain expectations. Da, da, da. And she lives in Hawaii. She's a wonderful surfer. She's kind of self-taught, and so yeah, she kind of revolutionized this whole thing, and she's doing really well. So I kind of wanted to get your perspective on that side, because you mentioned that yes, everything is a little bit more masculine with a little bit more of a kind of a male style. So there are certain expectations, and you are breaking through that barrier.
Yeah, and
So how do you feel in that environment?
so I just wanna touch on, like, a little bit of what you were saying, about, like, how everything's kind of designed for, like, the male gaze, right? Like, the way that female surfers are represented and that sort of thing, and, obviously, you have to be in shape, you have to be healthy and able to do it. Takes a lot of strength to get up on a board. I would say I've tried many times. I haven't been consistent to, like, really learn and be good at it. I've stood up a few times, but it's
Come on,
hard.
girl,
It's
you're
not
in
an
San
easy.
Diego now. You got to do that.
I know, and so it takes a lot of strength, and I think there's, like, an expectation on what you need to look like to have that strength, but if you notice, like, in my artwork, if I paint the female body a lot. I just really enjoy doing that, and I personally am, like, not a stick person, like a skinny little thing. I have, like, curves to me just as most women do, and so I paint them in that way when I paint the female body because I think that's really important, and I think it's another way of, like, trying to make that for, like, the female gaze, over the male gaze. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of, like, my take on that whole everything that you were just touching on.
So, have you ever experienced that connection with mainstream surfing industry? I don't know, magazines and some surfing companies, because I saw that you were actually painting murals in some of the surfing shops and other things. So how's that been working for you?
Yeah, it's a bit of a unique market as well. I would say a lot of, like, surf art in general, and if you talk to even, like, the most successful surf artists, they'll tell you the same thing. Um, there's not a lot of money in the surf industry, right? So you think of, like, a surfer who's just, like, not, the typical, like, "I'm not going to work, I'm gonna these waves are too good," like, kinda thing. So there's really not a lot of money to be made, like, from selling to surfers themselves. So you have to then, like, find that clientele who loves your work, loves the surf theme, like, loves all of that, but, like, can also afford it. So it's a bit of, a tricky kind of thing. I've tried a lot of times to sell my boards in surf shops, and, like, surprisingly enough, it doesn't work. It doesn't because they're significantly more expensive than just a regular surfboard, um, and to think that, like, you can't ride it's just not gonna sell in a surf shop. So, I've had to kind of, like, find other outlets and figure out like my audience in that way over time.
So who's your audience? Share with us.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm looking for people who love the beach, have big wall space to put a big board on just for art, right? And then someone who can also like afford to pay for it, you know? So, um, yeah, I've kind of gone through like the gallery route sometimes, but it's difficult. Once you find like that niche little someone part of your niche, you make a really good connection with them. And I like usually people who support me and purchase my boards are then like collectors over time. So
That's great. Well, as a marketing professional, I applaud you for drilling down into knowing your audience so well, and like you're clearly doing a really great job marketing yourself. That's amazing, and I think I don't know if you have any tips for other artists how to do that, because I know that this is the hot topic that all my listeners are eager to learn. So if you have any tips, we will appreciate that.
yeah, I just did another podcast on Monday too, and I was asked the same thing. And like what I would say is I'm definitely don't know everything. Like I have so much room to learn and grow. But
Yeah,
I would say
you
what's
have a good intuition, I can tell.
thank you. But what's worked for me the most out of everything I've tried, and like I've tried everything. I think I'm like such a go-getter. Like I said, I work 7 days a week, paint 5 days a week. So I personally like to just get out there in my community and like show my face. And I feel like I've made the best connections and like found the best clients just by like in person meeting people and showing my face and getting out there. So for some people, you know, social media is their thing and they can just make videos and post and sell out of their art. That doesn't really work for me, especially because my pieces are so large and they're special and they're something that like you would connect with by knowing me. So I like to even like live painting has been something that I've really enjoyed doing. I go out in public and I'll like at bars, restaurants, beaches, events, anytime I'm out selling my work, I'm doing it. I'll live paint and it sparks conversation. So I get to know people that way. I do a lot of in-person events. So I'll go to like festivals and stuff like that. And not with the expectation that I'm going to make a bunch of money that day, but with the expectation that I'm investing my time into meeting potential clients. So that's what's worked best for me. I've also noticed like, and sorry if I'm rambling on about it, but
No, go ahead, go ahead.
I've noticed that like when you do meet those like higher end clients that are gonna continue to collect your work, it's really important for them to actually know you. Um, a lot of my clients have like, and at first I was thought it was weird. I don't know. It was just new, I guess. But they would want to like take me out to dinner or invite me over, and I would bring my art over, and like we'd look at how it looked in their home, and they'd want to like offer you a drink and like actually sit down and like talk to you, and they want to know about you and that kind of thing. And that's worked for me, just building relationships over time.
Well, that's a great point. That's a great tip. Yeah. Networking is huge. And especially in San Diego, it's San Diego. I've lived here for 8 years, and on year one, I realized that this is such a small town, because if you know someone, you pretty much like six, it's not even six handshakes. In San Diego, you can probably go by with four handshakes to get
Yeah,
to know everybody.
yeah.
So it's a very
No, it's
interesting
true.
community. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for that. And actually, it's a great segue to my next question about your life painting. So, can you talk a little bit more about that? So, are you doing it like, is it a paid gig, or you're just how you're approaching? Are you just you advertise yourself? You're being hired to do that as an entertainer at the event, or you just knock on the door in the restaurant like, hey, I want to paint live for your guests today. Like, how are you doing this?
Yeah, so I will say I started doing it because I would be like at a market or something like that with my artwork, and people would not realize that I painted that stuff, you know, like they just thought I was a vendor selling something, or that like some of my canvas paintings they thought it was just like a photo. So a lot of people didn't realize that I was actually doing it, and I noticed that I just started painting there so that I could avoid like having to tell people that I painted it and like that whole conversation, and people would just realize right away. And I noticed like I was selling a lot more that way. People connected with it, especially like if they were on the fence about a painting, the fact that they like saw me actually doing it, I think helped make a sale. And to this day, I still stand by that. I think it's very true. And then over time, I started doing more like actually during COVID, I started around COVID is like around the time that I had quit teaching, and I read a book by Maria Brophy. She's the wife of Drew Brophy, one of the most successful, famous surf artists out there. And she mentioned like this live painting thing and doing it more as like a paid sort of situation. So during COVID, I started exploring live surfboard painting at surf shops and stuff like that. And the way that I um, sold it to them just to get the experience was just to say like, I will live paint if you let me bring my artwork and sell it. And then I will also bring people into the surf shop. It was a COVID time. People were, the local surf shops were hurting for
Hmm. Hmm.
customers and money. So it was a good collaboration in that way. And I was able to like have a free place to sell my artwork and market myself. But now it's gotten to the point, like since I've been in San Diego, I've actually been doing it with like some of my musician friends and stuff like that, and it's become more of a paid gig. And I've noticed actually in the past like 2 months that I've been asked more often, like, "Oh, what's your rate? Like, what do we would love to have like that sort of thing." Which wasn't really happening before with the live painting thing. So I think that's sort of now the next step to actually start to get paid to do it.
Okay, so yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Actually, that's also great. So you were using it as a marketing outlet for yourself for the future, like building up for the future, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
now it's becoming a new income stream for you. That's actually really smart, really
Yeah, and,
smart.
even just going, like, I was saying this, like I said, I did another podcast on Monday, and I was saying the same thing, but you're making me think of it. Like, I will go out instead of painting here at home. Like, if I'm gonna be painting anyway, I will just go to the beach and do it. So now there's, like, eyes on what I'm doing and sparks conversation. It's like my whole business model, like I said, going out and meeting people face to face. So, yeah.
Well, it also helps to be, an outgoing person like yourself, because I know that not every artist would do that. Some of them like the solitude, and they want to clear the space and like head space. Yeah, but this is actually really really great how patient you are in exploring all the opportunities for yourself. I actually wanted to kind of rewind a little bit and talk to you about your journey to San Diego. You mentioned that you were traveling across the country quite a bit, and you have been in San Diego for what, just about 2 years, probably, right? Since
Yeah.
2022. So it's really not that long, and you seem to be able to fit right in. You have friends, you have the events that you were doing, you were making connections, you were networking like the heck out of it. So I wanted to, and I know that for a lot of people who are moving to San Diego, it's not always an easy transition, because especially some people who are moving from the East Coast, the dynamic here in San Diego is much slower, and I guess the mindset is a little bit different, let alone people who are moving from different countries over here. Like I know I had like 2 years of complete like disorientation. Even though I spoke English very well, I felt like, okay, everything is kind of the same but very different. So I kind of lost myself a little bit in this transition period. So I wanted to ask you, how are you feeling, or how are you coping with it? And so what goes into it, and if it informs your art in any way, how?
So yeah, everything you're saying definitely like sits with me well. Moving out here was, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, it was like a really difficult transition for me. When I first came and you gotta remember too, like I'm part of a military, like my husband's in the military, so it's not like we are moving places and we're choosing the places. So it's just kind of like you're going here, make it work. When we were moving out here, I will say it was difficult because I had just quit teaching. Maybe I was like not even a year, I don't think, or maybe I was just 1 year full-time artist. So I was living in Key West and I was like doing really well there. So I had built this business for myself and I was like, it was just taking off and then I had to leave and start from scratch. So coming here, that was really hard for me. And to just kind of start from scratch after having this huge success in Key West. So that's kind of I had to be like a go-getter, right? I had to be out there. I had to figure out what markets to go to. I had to figure out where to show my art. And I had a lot of like negative experiences. It was like when I came out here, I felt um like everyone, like you were saying before, like kind of knew everyone already and they already like had a surfboard artist and they just didn't care about, oh, this another like little blonde girl coming in here trying to like sell us something. So it was hard for me to figure it all out. Now I will say, like, I'm finally been being here like around a year and a half. I've figured it out for myself where I fit in and where I'm comfortable. But it was a tough, I would say, year trying to figure all of that out. And aside from that, too, just like adjusting to like the personalities of the people out here on the East Coast, we're very like straight up. We'll tell you exactly how we feel, and like sometimes it's not what you want to hear, but everyone's like used to that. Um, so coming out here, I felt like it was just very different. Like everyone was just really nice, but not everyone, you know what I mean? Like not
Yeah,
everyone likes
yeah,
you, but you don't know. Like on the East Coast, if
yeah.
you don't like me, I'm gonna know. And that's
I
okay. That's cool.
I had exactly the same thing, everything is just slightly sugar coated,
Oh
like
yeah.
just a little bit shallow, like, and yeah, for me, it was also, it was probably the biggest problem for me was to figure out how to connect with people because I'm kind of also the very direct person and I wear a heart on my sleeve and sometimes I can come across as not necessarily politically correct or very diplomatic but I'm honest.
You're
uh
authentic to yourself and how you
yeah,
feel. Yeah.
and it was quite a challenge because you kind of you catch the vibes, but sometimes people like they're still smiling. Like you can tell like you catch that spark in the eye when they're upset with something that you say, but they keep smiling and they're very politely say something to you and then continue the conversation. It's like, and then they ghost you for a month or something.
Yeah.
It's like
So
that
I
was the most difficult thing for me to figure out.
I heard this thing when I first moved here, and I don't want to say like I've met wonderful people here in San Diego. So but it made me laugh when I heard this that people on the East Coast like they will be so mean to you, but they will always like help you. You know what I mean? And they'll be like kind in that way. Like they'll be like, if you break down on the side of the road, they'll be like, "You're an idiot. What's wrong with you?" But then they'll help you change your tire. But people on the West Coast, it's kind of like the opposite. Like they'll be super nice to you. But it's, like, hard to get people to, like, wanna help you, and I shouldn't say that for everyone, it was just, like, a funny thing that I heard when I moved out here, because I have met wonderful people that would help me, but it just made me laugh when I heard
Yeah,
that.
it's definitely it might feel like this when you first come in San Diego, but yeah, over time I realized that it's one of the warmest communities actually.
It
Yeah.
is, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a little adjustment,
Yeah, it
in
is a
the
little
way, but
adjustment. Yeah. And
yeah.
I like I used to like with my first years in San Diego, I used to use that comparison between the peaches and coconuts as the comparison between Russians and Americans because I'm Russian and that's kind of like Russians don't smile and they're grumpy and mean and whatever, but it's like a coconut, right? But then you break the shell is very thin, and then you have all the sweetness and you make friends for life. Period.
Yes.
And in the States, most of the people that I experience, because most of the time I've been in California, it's kind of like it's the opposite. It's a peach. They're fuzzy and soft and sweet, but then there's that, the vulnerability is a very, very hardcore, and you will never ever break it. So that was so I guess what you're saying kind of reminds me of that metaphor as well.
Yeah, have you ever been to New York City?
I have been once for a very, very short visit, and I freaked out, honestly.
People are harsh there, but, like, they're the nicest people ever, but they seem so harsh, but if you
Yeah,
really they would do anything for you, though.
I had a I had a 12-hour layover between two flights, and I decided to just go and check out the Manhattan. It was October. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning, dark. So I come out of the metro, which is horrifying.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Came out. It's dark. It's raining. People are rushing somewhere. There's like a trash trucks on the street, and someone yelled at me for for not moving fast enough. I was like, oh my god, what I'm doing here.
Oh
So
my god, that's so
somehow
funny.
I found a coffee shop. I found the Central Park. I sat on the bench. I I called my then boyfriend, who's my husband now. I'm like, hey, honey, like, oh, did you make it to New York? Do you like it? Like, yeah, crying
These
completely.
people are gonna eat me alive. That's so funny.
So, yeah,
Very
I am
accurate.
due. Yeah, I am due for another experience of New York with a little bit more of an open mind.
Maybe go in the summer, people are a
Yeah.
little less, on edge, but the weather's nice. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So there's another part of your art that I wanted to explore is the mural. You're a muralist, right? And I see that you have done pretty much everything from the surf shops to I don't know, food trucks,
I've painted swimming pools, I've done it all. Um,
swimming pools. Okay, that's interesting.
um, Needless to say, like, hearing that, I love a good challenge. So I'm the muralist who will paint anything you could throw at me. I've painted I don't even know. I've painted corrugated metal, food trucks, swimming pools, statues, brick, like anything you could think of, I've painted it. So I don't know. I'm just
How
like
many
ambitious in a way.
how many murals have you done in San Diego so far?
Not many. I would say that's like a hard I've done let me see. I think I'm working on my third or fourth one now. That was a hard thing to get into here. Everyone kind of already knows somebody, you know? So it took me a while to like show this is what I do, like take a chance on me, like this person you don't know yet.
Yeah.
So but like I said, I'm slowly kind of getting my groove with that here. When I first moved, I spent a lot of time traveling and doing murals because I had no significant work like that here. So I flew to Key West, New Jersey, Texas. Yeah, I traveled many places to do mural work because I needed the job. So I was now, but in a way, it was a blessing because I figured out how to now be able to charge and travel, you know? So that's definitely going to be more in my future. I'm actually going to New Jersey at the end of January to do another mural. So, yeah. And I'm working on one right now in San Marcos. So,
Oh, great. Awesome. Okay, so it doesn't compute, like you're you're working on so many things at once and you're traveling to do murals. How are you like are you taking your unfinished surfboards with you?
I'm just a psycho. It's okay. You can say it. I'm a psycho. I just
You're
don't stop.
you're not the first one on the podcast I'm asking this question. Yeah. It's
Um,
awesome. It's awesome. I love your unstoppable energy. That's absolutely amazing. I wanted to ask you, so okay, you are having a solo exhibition in May
yeah,
2024 at Perspective Spaces in Encinitas.
yes.
Yes. Let's talk about that. That's I assume it would be your first solo exhibition in San Diego.
It is. Well, I've done like kind of a mini one, but it was only a one night thing. So, but a full exhibition for a month long is my first solo exhibition in that way. I've done other where I was featured for a month, but never a solo one. And actually, the way that I discovered perspective space and like why I decided to go through with this is many years ago, they hosted a show for a group of female surf artists that I have followed along with for a long time. They're called Her Waves. I'm just like a big fan of all of the female artists that are a group of that. And so ever since I saw that show, I followed Perspective Space, and I'm getting to the point now in my career in my life where I'm kind of over being a psycho, and I don't want to be like doing as much all at once. And I don't know, I just feel like I'm gonna burn out at some point. I haven't yet, but I know it's coming. And I know that the next step for me is to open a gallery. And I don't know when or where that's going to be, but I know that that's going to come in the future soon, hopefully. So I thought of Perspective Space because I thought like having the space and doing like a month-long solo sort of thing, and they're really open to like how I can do it. So I thought that was cool, and I thought this would be a good sort of like trial run at how a
Yeah.
gallery space would look. So that's why I kind of decided to do that, and I'm really excited about it.
Awesome. So how many pieces you are going to show in the space?
I don't know yet.
You don't
So
know?
it's gonna be in May. I do have a lot of ideas, for things that, I want to, like, bring out that I've been kinda saving in my back pocket for something big. So, I'm gonna try to have quite a few new pieces and new ideas out for that, and then I will have, like, my typical boards that I do, and canvas. I'm hoping to have like some canvas pieces as well. I'm gonna try to touch on a little bit of everything so it really does feel like a curated gallery space.
Are you gonna do a live painting at the opening reception?
Not at the opening. I'm gonna try to sit back and enjoy the opening night, but I do plan to be there every day. So for the full 30 days, I'm gonna be there, and my idea is to be like out on the street, like right outside, live painting every day, or just being there if I'm not able to live paint every day. But that's the goal, as much as I can, to be doing that. So if you're listening, and it's something you want to see, that would be a good any day in May would be a good time to stop by and see that in action.
Absolutely. So I will put all the links in the show notes to your website, to Perspective Space. We will put the dates in, and we'll maybe do another shout out closer to your exhibition on social media as well. So that would be awesome. That would be
I
awesome, and I am looking forward to it. So
Yeah,
may
I'm excited for it too, and I appreciate you saying that.
All right. So, and now I'm curious. You mentioned that you see your own gallery space in the future. Well, that's first of all an amazing clarity for your business goals and stuff. And I know that you're determined. So, if anyone, you can pull it off. Couple questions. So, how do you see it? Where it's going to be? What it's going to be? And aren't you afraid that you are going to be relocated again and we'll have to, start all over?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. It's definitely like the biggest fear. So, ideally, um, I mean, I hate to like put this out there, but I'm a big like manifester that we will end up back on.
Throw it into the universe right here
Yeah,
on air.
I would like to end up back on the East Coast, at least somewhere close to where I had grown up. And ideally, we would be in that location for 3, 4 years this time. What happens why we've been moving around so much is my husband keeps getting promoted, and then they're like, "Now you have to move." So it's like, bittersweet. It's like, it's nice
Mhm.
that he's moving up in his career, but now we have to move. So by the time we move next time, it might be longer until he can promote again. So I'm hoping we will stay in one spot a little longer, and I'll have time to build something that I can then hand off to someone that I trust. And then maybe do it again in the next place and have multiple, that's like the long-term ambitious goal. Who knows what's going to happen, but start with one and try to make that work. um, Hopefully on the East Coast again. As much as I love San Diego and how beautiful it is, it's like I'm ready to kind of settle and like have a family and have the gallery and have all of those things and not have to run around to all these markets and I
Yeah.
can't. It's just like I'm so busy all the time. We came back from Italy. We went on a trip in October. We came back like end of October. I got back in San Diego and I haven't taken a day off since. So, I just am ready to, like, have a space that I can go and then leave and lock the door and leave it all there and not go back until the next day.
I don't know if it's going to be possible.
I
especially
know.
if you're going to have a family. Like I have an 18 months running around. And oh my God, I am not having days off even when I'm having days off. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. So, in your gallery, and with the perspective that you are going to maybe move and open another gallery in a different location, depending on the situation. So, is that going to be like a solo Nicole Miller gallery, or you're going to feature other artists? Do you kind of know what direction you want to go with that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought about this a lot, and I think for the most part, it's gonna be, um, like, I would say, like, 75% me, and putting my boards out there in a nice space where they belong, but there are a lot of like, over my years of traveling around and meeting so many great people, doing so many great things, I obviously wanna, like, give a space for them as well. I haven't really thought about how that's all gonna work. For me, I know that working with galleries has been difficult for me, so I don't want it to be that way when other artists are trying to work with my gallery. So it's something that I'm not really there yet. It's right now it's like not it's just out there and I'm trying to reach for it. So I haven't thought through like the really tiny details of that yet. But I do want to give artists, like, that I've connected with and have good relationship with, a space to show their work. I mean, how cool would that be if I can give a San Diego artist a space on the East Coast to now market themselves, or another Key West artist a space in New Jersey, or, wherever we end up, to market themselves. So it's something I want, but I don't know how that's gonna work yet.
Well, okay, you put it out in the universe, it's going to work.
Yeah.
So, I am now curious to learn. You mentioned that you had a difficult time connecting with galleries. I just wanted to hear a little bit about your experience. I mean, without naming names or anything like that, because I know that it's a common challenge. So I wanted to learn a little bit about your experience and what because I also hope that some galleries are listening to us, so they might, take a note of how they can make it better for us.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard, like, I don't want it's hard because I might people might be like, "Oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She's whatever." But I feel like I've worked so hard on my art business. I mean, I've literally been doing this since I was in high school, and building it to where it is now. And it's hard for me when you go to like work with a gallery to feel like you're now giving up everything that you've worked so hard for because they're offering you a place to sell your work, which is valuable and it's great and it's wonderful. But um, I don't know, like, some galleries have, like, wanted more than half of, like, what it
Uh-huh.
sells for, and that's I don't think personally, I can't see how that is fair. I mean, I understand, like, it's expensive these days to, like, open a place. I mean, I understand that because I wanna do it and I've looked into it, and, it is expensive and you do have bills to pay and you are offering a place for an artist to showcase their work, but, I mean, we're the ones, like, investing our souls into these pieces. I don't know, so that's been hard for me. I haven't been able to, like, justify that part of it always, and then, just some galleries will have, they feel like they wanna control you now. So, like, if they're selling your surfboards for this amount, now you personally cannot on your website have them for cheaper, even though they're taking half. So, it's not even like you can just mark it up to make up for that, and then if it sells in the gallery, that's great. Now I've had experiences where they wanna, like, control what I'm doing with my business that I have worked so hard to get to where I am and figured out what works for me. Like, I can't just double my price overnight because you wanna double my price because you wanna take half. So, it's hard because I think as artists, we need the gallery spaces to, like, put our work out there in a legitimate space, but at the same time, like, is it worth it? So, that's the struggle that I've had. I worked with one gallery in Key West. It was great. Like, we had a really good relationship, and we understood that, like, certain things I couldn't sell there because I couldn't bend on, like, changing my price and that sort of thing. And we did a lot of, like, commission work together, and it was wonderful, but since I actually just left, like, a week ago, that gallery, because being out here in California, it's just difficult to like maintain it and
Mhm.
always constantly have work in there. So now I'm navigating that. In California, I had a like when I first got here, I went like door to door to galleries and I was told no by so many people. I just was sort of like not into it anymore. And yeah, that's kind of those were my struggles. I don't know if anyone else can relate to that or not, or I don't want to sound like I don't appreciate what certain galleries do. But that was just my thought process on it all.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to it, and I also think that there's, the element of dialogue is missing because galleries do have their own perspective. Because just maintaining the space and paying the rent is not the entire scope of their expense, right? If the gallery is good, then they have a pool of collectors, they have marketing team, they have, they are actively selling you. It's not like they just hang you and whoever random walks in the door, may or may not buy your work, right? And I think that might be galleries like that as well. But if a gallery, has a good reputation, that they they work for those 50%. But I do feel like there is a bit of a disconnect and in communication between artists and galleries, and galleries stand their ground, saying that that's what they do is fair, and they have their own market and they kind of trying to control the variables. But it does feel a bit unfair to artists, because artists are, we're sole proprietors, we are working our asses off, and then all of a sudden someone is taking control over it, and you either have to give up the rest of your hard work business, or I don't know. Yeah, it is difficult. It is really difficult, and I think it works for some artists who just, who don't want to deal with networking and marketing themselves. But for people like you, for example, you were very active in the community. You were outgoing. You were networking the heck out of it. You are marketing yourself. You are doing all these events and finding the collaboration opportunities and stuff. So you are doing all that marketing work that presumably gallery would do to sell your work, right? So for you, it is really difficult to justify. And there are so many artists like you. So yeah, it does feel we're kind of, I feel like we're historically in this transition period where we have to figure out a different format for galleries and artists to work together, because of all these opportunities for artists to market themselves, but also for galleries being still a legit space and have a place.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
just to, like, touch on that, another, like, thing that was hard for me is because I am so active and I'm out there and I'm meeting people and I feel like I have good relationships with multiple people, it was hard for me to become part of a gallery that wanted me, like, exclusively to only sell there, so I couldn't sell anywhere else in that town or that area or county or whatever, and that's really common with galleries, and that's, like, hard for me because now I have to make a decision between being in a gallery space that I don't know if they're gonna stick by my side forever. They might decide one day that they don't like my work anymore and they don't want me there, or it's not working, or they could go, whatever endless possibilities could happen. And now I burned bridges between people who I had really good relationships with. And so it's like choosing one relationship over 10. So that was always really hard for me too. Like I can't do that. Like that doesn't work for me, that model. And there's a lot of models that don't work. I mean, ideally you could just walk into a gallery, they like you or they don't. If they like you, you can like put work in the gallery up, mark it up to whatever they're making what they need to make, and it doesn't affect everything else that you do. And I could see, both sides of it and like where some restrictions might come from, but I feel like it's always hard to like meet a middle ground, at least for me anyway, in the way I'm doing
Yeah.
things now.
Yeah.
And that's why like talking about opening my own gallery, I would want it to be mostly my work because I want my work to be what's keeping it running, right? And like everything else is just providing an opportunity for artists. So that's why I would keep that part of it small, but most of the income would be from what I'm doing and how hard, that sort of thing. So if that makes sense.
It does, and it really sounds like a really, really good opportunity for other artists down the line in the future when you actually make it work, because that's, not a lot of artists have this opportunity to work with the gallery, knowing that they going to feel like it's a fair business for them. So
Yeah, well, I mean, even a lot of galleries too. I mean, I walked into a gallery in San Diego when I came here, and it was ran by someone who never made art in his life, and he was just sort of like a business model for him, so he didn't understand like what goes into creating and how much of that it takes and how much it really is like our baby, when we create something. So it, that I think a gallery ran by artists is always a better situation too, for I mean, in my experience as well, because they get it.
yeah. Alrighty. So and yeah,
Sorry,
and
great
I was
rant.
no, I was going to make a comment that this is why perspective space is working for you. This model, because
They're
you practically you own the space for a month.
exactly,
Yeah.
and I could do what I need to do with it, and
Yeah.
they're making what they need to make off of it, and it's a good relationship, and they're super like flexible and
Yeah, they
awesome.
are. Yeah, they're awesome. They're awesome people. They have nothing to do with art, but they're really supportive of the art community. Yeah. Well, we are at the top of the hour, almost,
Oh,
and I wanted to, yeah, I know, I have no idea how it, like,
I guess I
Good.
ranted a lot.
Yeah. No, it's just I found it's absolutely impossible to have like a half an hour conversation with another artist. It's just 1 hour is the minimum, and sometimes even that is not enough.
Yeah.
But I feel like we wrapped a lot of things in this episode, and I am really grateful for you to for sharing all your experiences, and some of them are not easy. I mean, you're such an outgoing, cheerful person, and that I think, like for me, it is very inspiring to see that you have come here to San Diego. You have had all the same struggles as everybody else. You did not give up. You, with a smile on your face, just make connections with people and try a lot of things patiently, worked hard, and it's working for you, and that's great. It's just awesome to see, even though you are in the situation where nothing is certain, because a month from now you might just take off and move again, right? And that's a tough place to be in. But I wanted to give you this few minutes at the top of the hour to maybe say something that you wanted to say and I did not ask you. If you had some ideas that you wanted to bring to this conversation, or like this is a perfect time for all the plugs that you want to make.
Yeah, I mean, I just thank you for having me. This is great. I'm excited about the show in Perspective Space. That'll be in May, so it's still a while from now. I will say, like, if one thing I get all the time, because I left teaching to do this full time, like a lot of people ask me, like, how did you do that? Like, I'm so scared to do that. And, I did it literally off a whim. I just walked into my principal's office and I quit, and I had no like real plan. But I will say, if you're like passionate about what you do and you're driven, no matter what it is, whether it's art or music or writing or whatever it might be, um, go for it, because you'll figure it out. Because I work way harder than I did as a teacher, but I don't feel it. It's because I want to be doing it, and I'm actually like making more money than I did as a teacher too, working harder, doing a lot more 7 days a week constant, but like I said, I don't feel it. So if you're serious about like what you do and you really love it, I would say just go for it. You'll figure it out, and you'll fail a lot, and the highs will be high and the lows will be really low, but it all pays off, and I'm way happier now. I wouldn't say I was probably this cheerful and smiley of a person, 4 years ago teaching. So, yeah, that's kind of what I would say to end it.
Yeah, and that's actually a very interesting point, because yeah, it kind of sounds like a leap in the net will appear, and I until very recently I really could not connect with that statement, because like, well, how can you just take a leap of faith and just hope that the net will appear, because nothing is coming out of the thin air, right? It's not. But I did realize, like very recently, literally like a month ago, because someone explained it to me in a different way, that the net that will appear is your resourcefulness. You will figure that out. Like if you
Yeah,
really
and
want to do something, like the intention, if you have enough intention, you will find ways of doing things.
I will say, like, I always hate the statement that I get all the time, "You're so lucky that you're able to do this," and it has nothing to do with luck. I will just say I'm lucky that I was given the talent, but there's, like, a lot of people out there who have the talent, but not the drive to wanna do that, you know what I mean, and make money off of it. So I will say, yeah, it has nothing to do with luck. You will work really hard if you choose to do something like we're doing. But it's worth it because I'm happier. And
Yeah.
it's something I can, at the end of the day, be proud of. Like, I did this, I created this, and, you know, made a life that I wanted.
Amen. All right. How do people find you online?
Oh, okay. So Instagram is the biggest way. It's just at art by Nicole Miller, one word, no spaces or anything. Or you can find my website, just artbynicolemiller.com. That has all of my stuff on there as well.
All right.
Contact information.
And I will make sure that all the links are going to be in the show notes, including the information about your upcoming show at the Perspective Space. And oh my God, thank you so much for this conversation. I am thrilled. I am
Oh,
thrilled.
me
I am
too.
happy for you. I cheer you, and I will be at that show
Oh, yay. Thank you.
one
I look
day.
forward to it.
Yes.
May 1st is the opening.
Okay. I'll try to make it to the opening. It's a little bit tricky, but I was really happy to hear that you are going to be there every day. And I go to Encinitas quite a bit, and I will absolutely stop by.
Yeah, I'm going to get a point to be there.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. All right.
Thank you
We'll
so
see you
much.
again in the art scene. Thanks for listening to this episode of In the Art Scene. Show us some love by sharing it with your friends and giving it a raving 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcasts. By doing this, you're supporting my nonprofit organization called San Diego Art Directory on its mission to make San Diego a new cultural destination. To learn more, visit sandiegoartdirectory.com and intheartscene.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Have an inspiring day. I will see you next time in the art scene.